Hey everyone, and welcome back to another podcast episode. Today's a very special episode because for the first time ever, Derek Simnett is joining us for a podcast. It's going to be super excited. A lot of you guys know who Derek is. A lot of you guys, follow along his stuff, which is great because I believe that Derek has one of the best, content on social media in terms of plant-based nutrition and a healthy lifestyle. So it's my pleasure to have you on board today, man. So we're going to be discussing a heated topic. Not really heated, man. Like we're going to keep drama out of it today, but we're going to be discussing how to be healthy in general and preventing becoming an ex-vegan or, failing on a vegan diet, because a lot of people are struggling with this idea and notion. A lot of people are questioning the vegan diet because of these, more popular influencers who are questioning the health benefits of the plant-based diet. So it'll be cool, since you're a nutritionist and you're, well-informed. It'll be cool to go over some of the things that you think and, that we think in general could help people sustain a plant-based diet long term. So
sweet.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, man. Thanks for having me. I think that was a pretty generous introduction for me here, but I appreciate it, John. I feel the same way about you, man.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
The bromance is real.
Exactly. But yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be good to chat, and thanks for having me on this. And hello to everybody. Nice to see you guys over here.
Yeah, so I think it'll be helpful for the two people that don't know who you are, just to explain to them what you're all about, a little bit of a background. We don't have to go on for too long, but just a little bit, just so the people that don't know who you are know what you're all about.
So a bit of the background.
Yeah.
Well, it was a Tuesday in 1983. And no, I'm just kidding. That's when I was born. But a little bit of background. Basically, a few years ago, probably about 7 or so years ago now, I decided to get out of the industry that I was in, which was like marketing and public relations and stuff, and get into health. So I just wanted to help people get healthier, and so I went into become a nutritionist. So I went to school and studied holistic nutrition in Vancouver, British Columbia, at the school of the Institute of Holistic Nutrition, and graduated from that, and then just went on, started helping people, doing consulting and stuff. I started my YouTube channel to drive some traffic towards my consulting services and to kind of let people know who I am, because I think it's important, for people to, when you're going to be working with someone, that you actually resonate with them, and you know who they are before you kind of sign up. So that's why I did that. And then the channel started to grow, and I realized I could reach a much larger audience by doing this YouTube channel and help a lot more people. And so I just kept running with it, and and here we are.
So a starting point would be just talking a little bit about some of the basic tips or basic practices that we can all do to be healthier and just sustain health long term, and then we can go in on the nitty gritty afterwards in terms of how people may fail on a plant-based diet and that kind of stuff. But let's just give some general recommendations first. What would you say are the key things for optimizing your health that people can take away from this podcast and apply to their own lives immediately? What do you think?
I think the number one thing is understanding that you can take control of your health, and you have power to do that. And we're not just, we don't just have to succumb to our crappy genetics or whatever. We may be more predisposed to being overweight or whatever, but I think we can always, you can always go against that by choosing good habits in your lifestyle or whatever. And then I think the other main thing would be just to make your own food most of the time. We're in such such fast-paced lifestyle now that people are eating on the run all the time, and I understand that it's convenient, and
people are busy and
exactly
stuff,
and there's a lot of there's some healthy options out there, but for the most part, even the ones that seem pretty healthy, usually they're full of salt and oil and things that we don't need to be eating. So you end up just eating a bunch of useless calories, and your body's going to tell you you're still hungry, so you're going to keep eating and eating. But I think that's the main thing, is just eating, making your own food, and just putting in the effort. And that goes along with understanding that you can take control of your health. And just by going to the same restaurant every day and eating the same thing, and your health is suffering or whatever, that's not taking control of your health. So got to do that, and then understanding that if you make your own food, you'll definitely.
Yeah, that's such a great point. And I think a lot of the people who listen to that point that you just made, I think a lot of people will be like, yeah, but Derek, you don't understand. I don't have time to actually cook in the kitchen. Like I work 2 jobs, or, you know, I work 10 hours a day and I commute for 2 hours. So that's like 10 hours of the day gone. And then I have a family to look after afterwards. So, and then, you know, maybe they have other, you know, things they have to tend to. So a lot of people will use time as an excuse. So what do you think are the main things that people can do to kind of manage the time better, or just like find more time in their day to, you know, cook in the kitchen and experiment? Do you have any practical tips for, you know, time management?
Right. Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah. Because I struggle with that a little bit, because it's hard for me to relate, because I've never had like 2 jobs, and like, you know, it's kind of a situation that is very, you know, unfamiliar to me, because obviously like we both work from home, so we have like unlimited time to do this, but maybe some people will obviously find it more challenging than we do. So I don't know if you have any like practical tips for time management.
Definitely. I think, like, you know, first thing, I think having dialing down a good quick breakfast is really important, because then you leave the house, like, you know, already with some food or already fed or whatever, and you've already got a bunch of nutrients in you that day. So you're already up, and you don't, you know, you're already feeling good about how you're doing, right? So you're going to want to continue that for the rest of the day, I feel like. So, you know, smoothies, oatmeal and stuff. You can make overnight oats is really quick. You can make chia seed pudding that's, you know, overnight really fast. But for me, just having like you know, smoothie in the morning is so fast, and you can just walk out the door and have it. But you know, for some people that's even too much, and I think what you can do is like pre-portion, you know, take a day and like pre-portion some of your stuff, and maybe put them in, I don't know, freezer bags or little, you know, reusable containers or whatever. Have 5 of those ready, so you just have to basically open it up, maybe put a scoop of protein powder in if you want, you know, a bit of almond milk, and throw some greens in there, and then just blend it up, and you're ready to go.
That's a good point. The overnight stuff is a game changer as well. Like people just, you know, put, you know, like overnight oats, for example, is perfect, because you just wake up the next morning, you got to go to work at 5 o'clock. You just grab it from the fridge and you're off to work. So
and then another one for like lunches, for me, it was the biggest thing when I was, when I didn't have this job and I wasn't, you know, able to make my food at home or whatever. The biggest thing for me was to make a lot of dinner the night before, and especially of like your main, like cooked portion of the dinner. So if you're having like, you know, let's say you're having like a burrito and you're going to have rice and beans or whatever, make lots of rice and beans, because you're going to be using those rice and beans tomorrow for your lunch.
That's a good point.
So put some aside right away, and then you don't necessarily just have to have a burrito like you did, but you could have, you know, you could have a taco bowl, you could throw it on top of a salad, or you could just do something completely different with it. But at least you have that part, because it doesn't take long to just like, you know, throw some lettuce into the, you know, into a Tupperware container, and a few little, you know, some sauerkraut or whatever to make it taste good, bit of sauce, and then there you go. So I think that's really important, is to like think about what you're gonna have for lunch when you're making dinner, and just make a bit extra so you can use that for your lunch.
Yeah, and don't be scared to eat the same things like many days in a row. Like you were mentioning, just meal prepping ahead of time. It's a really good idea. And also, like, one thing I was thinking about is how everyone's obsessed with fast food, right? Like, you know, drive-thrus and like getting the food fast. But there is nothing quicker than just grabbing a couple bananas or, you know, some fruits and just bringing it with you, like for snacks and that kind of stuff. That's like the ultimate fast food.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. It comes in its little biodegradable wrapper.
Yeah, exactly. Just throw it out the window when you're driving. Don't do that, guys.
But I do know that people struggle with it, but I think we have to, you know, you just have to, like with anything in life, if you want to succeed at something, you're going to have to, you know, you're going to have to make it a priority, and you're going to maybe have to make some cuts elsewhere in your life. So it's like, maybe you are not able to sit there and watch an hour and a half or 2 hours of TV every night. You're going to have to take 30 minutes of that and prepare some food.
Yeah, there is no shortcut to health for sure. And I think this is one of the things that a lot of people struggle with, is just knowing that there is no shortcut, that they have to put in the effort. Like you have to go to the kitchen and make your own meals. Like if you have a lot of money and you can afford meal prep services or whatever, that's a completely different story. But for 99% of us, we don't have the time or the money to, you know, just buy stuff like organic, healthy whole foods and plant foods, you know, at Whole Foods every day and just like spend a ton of money. We don't have the luxury to do that. So I think it's really important to realize that you do have to put some effort into this. It is a big lifestyle change. And I would say also, like, don't beat yourself up too much, because this is a big transition. Like if you're used to eating a standard American diet and you all of a sudden, you know, decide to take control of your health and just eat whole plant foods and, you know, be super on point with your nutrition, it's a lot of work in the beginning, because you don't know, you know, what you have to eat. You don't know how to cook. There are loads of question marks. And I find that a lot of people find it overwhelming in the beginning. And if they can't do it 100%, they just quit altogether. And I think it's important to take it like, you know, incrementally improve over time and not judge yourself if you're not perfect right away.
No, I think that's great. I don't have anything to add to that. I completely agree, though. It's really, it is really easy to get obsessive about these things, and you know, and then like food phobia comes along with it,
right.
and everything. And of course, like, you know, we have to be conscious of what we're eating, and we can't just, you know, but at the same time, being scared of food isn't a good thing either.
That's
right?
true. Yeah. Like being too scared of having a little treat here and there. Like, that's true. And I guess also like social situations is something that a lot of people would struggle with. So, you know, your friends want to go, you know, to a pub and drink beer, or go to a restaurant and have, you know, burgers or something. So there's not a lot of restaurants that have, you know, healthy options. So what I always tell people is that, you know, try to convince your friends, or, you know, try to get people to go to a restaurant where you can find both unhealthy, you know, indulgent burgers, and at the same time, there's always an option for something healthy.
Yep.
And then you can always ask your chef, the chef of the restaurant, if they can prepare something clean or something.
Your chef, your personal chef?
I don't have a personal chef, but I wish.
You bring up a really good point, and I think it surprises me because I never thought about it when I was transitioning, but one of the most common sort of roadblocks that I get from people is like, I want to go vegan, but every Sunday night at my house we have roast, or every month I go to my grandma's house and we have like a big, like whatever, big family dinner, and there's like meat there and stuff, and she'd be offended if I didn't like eat it or whatever. And it's like, so don't let that one day stop you, you know, the one day a week or the one day a month stop you from, you know, eating plant-based the rest of the time.
100%.
And you're going to start feeling the benefits from it if you just incorporate more plants, no matter what percentage it is.
Yeah.
So I think that's important to remember. And I'm not telling everyone who's vegan to eat meat once a week or once a month or whatever. But if you are transitioning, don't let that be a roadblock for you to, you know, start making some changes.
Yeah, exactly. We're like, a lot of people are chasing perfection, and that doesn't exist. Just do your best and progress. So I think one of the other things that is obviously very important for health in general is physical activity, moving your body, exercising. And you've been doing a lot of different forms of exercise. You've been skateboarding when you, you know, I don't know how long ago you stopped skateboarding, but it's been a while, right?
Yeah.
And you've done running, you know, you do some biking and that kind of stuff. And now you're doing more like calisthenics combined with some resistance training, right? So what do you think people can do in terms of like physical activity to improve their health immediately?
Right.
Without it being like super overwhelming?
Yes. And I feel like you just watched my recent videos where I talk about this, because you set it up perfectly, where it's I know you set this up really nicely. Well, you got to find something that you like to do. You don't just want to just start going to the gym because that's the, you know, that what you've been told the best way to get healthy is, the best way to get strong is. If you absolutely hate it, if you're dragging your butt there every morning at 5 o'clock and you just hate it, it's not going to be sustainable. So if you really enjoy fast walking, and that's something you love, and you love listening to podcasts, and you know, that's a good way to get into it. And you'll start to be like, you know what, I'm tired of fast walking, I want to start running a little bit. And you might run a block or two or whatever, and it's like, hey, I'm going to start like buying a bike and, you know, maybe try that out or whatever. And I think it's important to remember, like it, you know, fitness can come in so many different forms, and it can be fun, and it can even be with like team sports, and that's a really good way. You don't even think about it when you're playing soccer, that you're like getting
so
exercise.
Much fun.
And then there's the community around it, and of course there's the commitment that you have to show up. So I think that's really important. And then some people work really well with like trainers, having that sort of like organized, you know, thing to follow, and someone
by my
there.
programs.
Yeah, exactly. By Jon's programs. But I think that can really help people as well. But just remembering that you don't have to just like get into the gym and like be a gym monkey in order to be fit, because there's so much more to fitness than muscles. Yeah,
100%. And what I always enjoy telling people as well is like increase your daily activity outside of exercise as well. So instead of, you know, if possible, instead of, you know, taking the elevators, you take the stairs, or, you know, walk your dog maybe one extra time a day. Those little things add up throughout the weeks and months. So it's also a good thing just to think about physical activity, not only as exercise, but just like general movement, just like, you know, getting your heart rate up a little bit, you know, any movement is going to be beneficial for your health. So, but yeah, also a lot of people don't enjoy exercising at all. Like we keep saying, you know, do whatever you enjoy and that kind of stuff. But some people like literally hate every form of exercise. Yeah. And it's really, that's when it becomes a little bit challenging, right? And I think when you're at that point where you hate everything, I think you still got to force yourself to do the form of exercise that you hate the least, you know, start there, because you might learn to enjoy it over time and then progress from there. Yeah, experiment.
It's going to take some willpower to start at first. But the nice thing about willpower, like our muscles, if we like exercise it,
Yeah.
it becomes stronger.
That's true. Yeah.
And so, you know, it won't be so hard for you to get up early in the morning and do that forever. And you'll start to like, you know, want that pain, want that, you know, want to get to the gym early. It'll start to become part of your routine rather than just like seeming like a burden.
Yeah. Especially when you start seeing the results and you feel good about yourself.
Yeah.
A lot of people, feel super addicted to working out when that happens. Okay. Well, I feel like we've covered like the main, you know, general recommendations for improving your health. So let's get into some more juicy topics right now. So recently, as you know, as a lot of people know, there have been you know, people and articles you know, in the media trying to portray the vegan diet as a very nutritional deficient diet. And a lot of people who have very big audiences have, you know, quit veganism and the plant-based diet and has blamed the plant-based diet for their health issues. And this is very confusing to a lot of people. A lot of people are more skeptical to give it a go because of this. And vegans are, who have watched them and followed these people, are now very confused because they were their favorite, you know, YouTubers or favorite Instagrammers, and now all of a sudden they're not vegan anymore, and they said they had, you know, they developed all kinds of issues. So it's interesting times right now. I haven't really observed these issues or these kind of like things happen since, you know, 4 years ago when I went vegan. I haven't, like, this has not happened before. So it's kind of like a new topic to touch on, which is cool because we you know, get to prevent people from believing all the stuff that is going on out there. So I think it's like it's a good idea to just talk a little bit about how to prevent failing on a plant-based diet, like some general recommendations, because I think, at least for me personally, when I study these people who, you know, didn't make it work for themselves, a lot of times it's pretty obvious that their diets could have been improved. So what are the main things that you see that people do wrong on a vegan diet? Because as we all know, a vegan diet can mean so many different things. Yeah,
well, that's exactly what I was going to say. Just because you're eating plant-based doesn't mean that it's healthy. And even if you are, which we've seen with a lot of these ex-vegans or whatever, even if you are eating the cleanest food, you know, only like, you know, the most organic lettuce and, only, you know, whatever, it still doesn't mean that that it's a healthy diet, because you could still be missing out on a lot of nutrients or calories, you know, which is a big one for a lot of people. So, but yeah, you're right. It is a phenomenon, and you know, I've been.
What do you feel about that?
I know it's weird because I've been vegan for 10 years, and you know, kind of, I started transitioning. It was probably about 12 years ago now, and I've never seen this either. But at the same time, in the last 4 years or so, I've never seen veganism exploding like it has.
True.
So with increased numbers, you're going to see, you know, people who are dropping off.
Right.
And as time goes on, you're obviously going to continue to see more people drop off, just because it's, you know, it will be tough for some people. It's not, you know, for me and you, it's fairly easy, but it's, you know, it depends on where you live and the support that you have around you. And also like, how you're feeling on it. And if you are, you know, eating a proper diet for yourself, like, you know,
just nutritional knowledge,
knowing
exactly what to do.
But yeah,
no, it's super interesting, and I hope that, you know, more and more people realize that you know, you don't have to listen to a public figure who claims something and just take that at face value and just believe what they're saying. It's important for everyone who's watching, who's like interested in optimizing their health and you know, living a plant-based and vegan lifestyle. I think it's important to be critical to everything, even what we're saying. Like, do your own research as well. Like, don't just take other people's word for it. But what would you, like you mentioned, you know, not getting enough nutrition, even though you're eating whole plant foods, that would, I think, surprise a lot of people, because you hear, oh, whole foods are the best, you know, kind of foods, and we should stay away from processed foods. So what makes a, you know, whole food diet nutritional deficient?
Well, first of all, like, if you're not getting in enough calories, that's you know, the big one. And I think a lot of people just don't realize how much more calorically dense things like meat and cheese and eggs are than plant
so
foods.
Much more.
It's like, if you look up like how many, you know, what 100 calories of cheese looks like versus what 100 calories of sweet potato looks like, it'll blow your mind, right? You got to eat a lot more. And I think, and you have to, you know, you have to eat fat, and you have to, like, you know, you have to, I don't know,
fat is a big one, right?
Yeah. No. So the biggest thing that I see when people are failing is that they eat a diet that is just too high in super like fiber rich, water rich vegetables. And like, yeah, sure, broccoli is like really nutritious and it has a good amount of protein and stuff in it, but you're not going to be able to just eat enough of that in order to get everything that you need, or in order to get enough protein or enough calories. So yeah, you definitely have to eat, a well-rounded diet, and you have to, I think for most people, I think a cooked vegan diet is probably going to be the best thing to start with.
Yeah. Especially if you're not like super on point and knowledgeable about how to, thrive on a raw diet, for example. Yeah,
exactly.
For the average person, I think that would be very challenging for sure.
But I think, you have to eat a lot. And I think really valuable for some people in the beginning to go on like Chronometer or MyFitnessPal or whatever it is and track their calories and make sure and be honest with how much you actually are eating and see if it matches with your total daily expenditure and just make sure that you are. And I think even with a vegan diet, I think the beautiful thing is that you can eat in a bit of a surplus and you're not going to get the same sort of, weight gain and that sort of thing as if you were eating a standard American diet in a small surplus, right?
So you brought up fat, which is a very interesting topic, something that I really like to talk about because I've noticed a lot of people who are not able to sustain a plant-based diet or who end up failing or who are not able to gain weight or build muscle. A lot of times I'll notice that they are not incorporating any fats into their diet. So is that something that you've also experienced, or do you think it is necessary to include fats, or do you think that it's okay for people to eat like, less than 10% of their calories coming from fat like a lot of people, do?
Right. You hear this term low fat, high carb being thrown around, or low fat vegan diet being thrown around a lot. Yeah. And I think it's, plant foods are just, for the most part, most plant foods, the average of them is low in fat, high in carbohydrates, and fairly low in protein, but whatever, a moderate amount of protein. So, but I think people take that to the extreme, and they think that they have to focus on eating low fat.
Yeah, and avoiding everything else.
Yeah,
right?
And I, when I transitioned to veganism, I watched Durian Rider, and I was watching Dan the Life Regenerator with the Master Plan, Dan McDonald, and they all promoted like a super high carb, low fat diet, and that's what I got into veganism, thinking as well, and I ate that way for a long time, and it served me okay for a while, but I definitely felt like, limited as far as like what I could have, and never, sometimes I wouldn't feel like totally satiated and stuff. I didn't notice any ill health effects, but at the same time, I didn't do that for all that long.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Because
go ahead.
Yeah. No, and that's a good point. I didn't even know that you started that way, so that's very interesting. So, would you say that once you incorporated more fats or more, protein or whatever, that you notice a difference then?
I was doing a lot more long distance running and cycling at the time, so it kind of it worked. I don't know if it worked for that, but when I started to transition into eating more, and fats and just more calorically dense foods, I started to lift weights and stuff and do calisthenics. So it was that it was hard. It's hard to isolate what it was, but I mean, it's it's important. We gotta eat fat, and we can't be scared of it. And we hear the plant-based doctors with all these studies saying this super low-fat diet reverses like heart disease and stuff. But I think they're talking about people that are like chronically ill, and they're healing those people and reversing those conditions, and that's great. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna be a sustainable diet or that everyone has to eat that way.
Yeah, it's because we are all individual. Like our needs are individual, right? Some people do better with lower fats, some people do better with way higher fats, so it's a very big spectrum, and that is why I don't enjoy when people just recommend a one-size-fits-all approach for everyone, because it's just not the case. Like some people just can't do too well with like certain types of foods.
And I used to describe my diet as a high carb, low fat vegan diet, even though I would still eat nuts and seeds and everything. At the end of the day, when you look to where my calories are coming from, most of them are coming from carbs and protein. If a small amount was coming from fat. But I've stopped saying that now, and I just say that I eat a whole foods plant-based diet because
people take it too literally and they try to avoid everything. So for the people watching here, like, don't be scared of fats. It's very, very important to have fats into your diet. Like, fats are very important for many, many things, many functions. And I think that maybe what would you recommend people focus on? Like, which types of fats, like which foods can they incorporate that are going to be healthier? Because people might just hear this and okay, like fine, I can use like I don't know what kind of oils or that kind of stuff. So
it's funny you say that. A lot of people combine or confuse fat and oil, which I think is really interesting. And I'm sure a lot of your followers are educated enough that they're not going to.
Yeah.
But whenever I make any videos and I say like, oh, I'm doing oil-free cooking, I'm doing stir fry without oil.
Yeah.
even if I'll add tahini as a dressing or I'll chop avocado in there, people will comment and say they'll know enough to say you need fat in order to absorb the vitamins A, D, E, and K. But they don't really, I guess they don't know enough to realize that like we're not talking about oil. We're talking about fat that you need to help with facilitate the absorption of those nutrients.
Right.
So I think it's we don't want to be consuming oil for the most part. Again, I don't think it's something we have to be totally food phobic about. But it's not something I put in my diet because there's, as we know, oil is very void of minerals. There's very few vitamins in it, and there's nothing. It's processed, and there's nothing that we can't get from the whole food source that we are getting from oil. And 1 tablespoon of oil, 120 calories. It's a lot of calories for very little room in your stomach.
The only case I can see for oil is if people have like very, very high metabolism or they struggle with keeping their weight up and that kind of stuff. If someone is very, very low appetite, then it could help. So
definitely.
When it comes to oil, you should choose like better oils than the worst forms.
Yeah, of course. Probably I would say like extra virgin olive oil would probably be the best choice. But avoid cooking with it as a fairly low smoke point. And I say this, but it's if someone gives me like a vegan dessert and it has coconut oil in it or whatever, I'm gonna eat it and I'm gonna enjoy it.
Oh yeah.
But it's just not something I'm trying to do every day, right?
Coconut oil is so good.
But yeah, so some of the healthier sources of fats is just the whole food fats that we know, right? Nuts and seeds. So we want to focus on the omega-3 fatty acids. Those are the essential fatty acids that are hard to get. Those and omega-6s, we get lots of omega-6s in our diet, so it's not something we necessarily have to focus on. And usually they come, foods that are rich in omega-3s will have some omega-6s.
And what are those?
In them. So flax is champion, but there's also hemp, chia, and walnuts is a good source as well. But those three, flax, hemp, and chia, are definitely the best. And you want to grind your flax, definitely, and you definitely want to try and grind your chia seeds as well. A lot of people think that you can just absorb them, but there have been studies that have been done that show people that are given chia seeds without grinding, their omega-3 levels don't go up.
Yeah, even when you make it into a pudding and that kind of stuff?
I don't think that they were soaked. I don't think they were soaked overnight. And so if you soak them overnight and you chew them really well, then maybe.
Okay.
But
that'd be an interesting point, actually.
It's definitely best to...
But to be safe, just grind it up.
Yeah, safe to grind them,
Awesome. Okay, well, so I guess include fats into your diet. That's the whole point of this. And what else do you think plays a role in these people who end up failing on the vegan diet? Is there something that you have noticed yourself that a lot of people, a mistake that you see repeating itself over and over again? Is there any pattern that you have observed personally?
Well, definitely like the sort of, I hate using the term like orthorexic, but for lack of a better term, those habits definitely are one of the main ones I see in the people that I also don't say fail veganism, but whatever, that didn't work out for them. That have gone back to eating meat or fish or eggs or whatever. That's definitely one of them. And you see them make these meals and it's like, it'll be like lettuce and then like just, a few chickpeas without any sauce on it. And then, maybe a tiny bit of avocado and like, a whole bunch of other low calorie veggies. And sure, it looks great. And in an Instagram picture, it looks really healthy and everything, but it's like 300 calories or whatnot, and you're going to have to eat, especially guys like, you and me and whatever, we're going to have to eat a lot more than that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So that's one of the main things that I see, and I think there's a lot of pressure for people online to make those meals that do look really healthy, and that no one can say that doesn't that's not healthy, because it's friggin' all green, it's all whole foods, mostly raw. Everyone knows that's healthy, right? So I think that's one of the main things that I've seen for sure. And then also, I mean, the jumping back and forth from different fads and trends and trying to find that health, right? By going, I'm going to do a juice fast for a week or 2 weeks or whatever. Or, I'm going to eating raw, or now I'm eating high fat or whatever it is. You see them jumping around and it's like, people like you and me and Brian and Nimai, it's like we've been eating this well-rounded diet, and it's not always 100% the healthiest. Sometimes we'll have the fake meats and stuff, which you don't necessarily, you don't need to have, but it's like we're incorporating a lot of fruits and we're eating a lot of them.
100%.
And we're not too dogmatic about our approach. We eat some raw, we eat some cooked.
And we're not calculating everything, and we're just intuitively eating and that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah. Which comes with practice, I guess. So in the beginning, I guess it can be helpful to track a little bit to like, research, but like the goal at the end of the day is not to be like, calculating every single calorie that you're putting into your body. I don't think that's healthy.
No. And it is kind of, it's sexy though to have these sort of like exclusive diets that you're on. That's, that's just the best. Right. And it's kind of like, I don't know. As humans, we like to know something that other people don't. We like to have that little edge, right?
Yeah.
So I think that is part of it. That people just want to like have be something different and have that secret knowledge that other people don't have. And then you have a message, right? So for me and you and everyone, it's like our message is just like it's not that extreme. It's just like, look, we're eating just like like lentil stir fries and brown rice pasta, this and that, and
vegan Ben and Jerry's.
Yeah, exactly. But it's, it's not these diets that are like, hey, look how no one else is doing this, but I'm doing this and I'm getting these results. I think that's really sexy for people, and that's why when I got into veganism, it was like the 30 bananas a day and all that, because it just those people were the ones that I was watching, and they seemed to be getting great results. So I'm like, I got to try that.
Okay, so I want to touch on the final thing now. Is like a lot of people say that they develop gut issues and stuff over time, and SIBO and IBS, whatever it is. And they say that, all of a sudden introducing, eggs and fish, especially, it seems like, there's a pattern there, like everyone's just introducing eggs and fish into their diet again. And then, miracles happen and everything goes away. Whether that's true or not is another question. But like, why would people think that, a vegan diet causes these horrible gut issues? Is there a way that you can like run into trouble with your gut by eating a whole food plant-based diet, or and if there is there a way to avoid it?
Right. Well, it's a super fiber-rich diet, really fiber-rich. So I think at first a lot of people will have trouble with that, and it's important to recognize that your microbiome in your gut will adapt over time.
Right.
And you might be a bit bloated and stuff at first. So it's it's important to introduce it slowly, and I think transitioning is good for a lot of people, like not just going completely cold turkey and firing right into veganism. Yeah. But I know once your eyes are opened and you learn these things, sometimes, you want to go that way, but just understand that, it will change over time. But then you said, long term, that happens to people where it will develop over time. And,
which I find a bit strange as well. Like, it's weird, but maybe it's something with jumping from one extreme diet to another. It might not be like, it might be a shock to your microbiome or something. I don't know.
One thing for me, I think it's important to recognize is that when there was a time in my life when I had bad digestion. It wasn't that long ago. It was probably 3 or 4 years ago now. And it was when I was going to school. I was working a job, 2 jobs, and I was really stressed. And I was eating on the run all the time. Yep. I wasn't chewing my food enough, and my digestion suffered. And it was a sort of chain of events where other things. My health wasn't the greatest from that either. I mean, it was never all that bad, but it definitely contributed. And I thought I had like parasites. I did like a parasite cleanse. Right. Okay. And then I thought maybe, I need tons of like probiotics and all this stuff. And then once I removed myself from that situation, I graduated school, and I was able to reduce my hours at work, and that it was amazing how much my digestion changed.
And you didn't even change the diet at all?
No, not at all.
Amazing. That's really cool. I didn't even know about that.
So I think stress, huge part. I mean, we have to be in that rest and digest state in order for our body to properly, start to break down the food and digest it. Yeah. So I think that's a big one.
Yeah. I think a lot of people also struggle with bloating and that kind of stuff, and they're worried about their digestion when they first jump onto a whole food plant-based diet. So it could be helpful just to try to have a lower fiber plant-based diet in the beginning, and then gradually increase the fiber intake and that kind of stuff. So you can choose white rice instead of brown rice, eat more white potatoes instead of loads of broccoli, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
And gradually increase.
And at first glance, they might not seem like the healthiest foods, but at that point in your, in your life or whatever, in your diet journey or whatever people say, that might be best for you then, right? Yeah. And I still incorporate some lower fiber foods into my diet that are processed, because for me, it's hard to get in enough calories if they are just the straight, high fiber plant foods.
100%.
And so sometimes it's nice to have a bit of brown rice pasta with something, or a bit of, whatever that has, white rice or whatever. Even. Yeah, protein powder even. But I think with the bloating and the gas and everything, just from my nutritionist mind, something to say is stomach acid is like a really important thing.
Okay.
And most people, a lot of people, their stomach acid is too low, and we just don't have enough of it in order to start that, breaking down the food. And then what happens is it gets too far down in our digestive tract, and it starts to ferment, and you get bloating and gas and other problems. So having things like lemon water or a little bit of apple cider vinegar and water can help raise the stomach acid. And once your stomach starts to recognize that it should have more, it should be more acidic, then that'll become its like base point. That'll become its homeostasis, if you will. So that's really important. Things like digestive bitters can do it as well. That's an ancient, like an herbal remedy that's well known for helping to increase the gastric juices in your stomach.
Amazing.
Yeah, but then also rest and like just not being really hyper and like eating on the run and stuff. That'll help as well.
Yeah, and chewing your food, like you
chewing
mentioned.
your food, exactly. Yeah. So if you have symptoms out there where you're where you eat and you're like burping right away, and then you get bloating, even heartburn. Those are classic symptoms of low stomach acid. And so many people think that their stomach acid is too high, and then they take things like Tums and stuff, which just squashes it.
Yeah.
You definitely don't want to do that. Yeah.
That's very good advice, because I feel a lot of people ask me about bloating, and I haven't really researched it too heavily. So I think this is a really good answer. I think a lot of people will benefit from that. So listen to what he said and apply that.
Yeah, look into it more. I can't talk about, we're limited for time here, but definitely look into like low stomach acid, and it's not some like, hippie vegan stuff that's out there energetically, whatever. It's like, no, this is like medical fact. And it's too bad that the medical doctors just prescribe like antacids and proton pump inhibitors for people that have problems with that, because a lot of the time that's not the issue.
Fuck doctors.
No, Western medicine's great.
Joking.
They're good at putting us back together and stuff, but sometimes with preventive medicine, it's not the best.
Yeah, for sure. And last point is, do you think there would be any benefits to adding fish and eggs back in? Because that's what, people are claiming. Well, what is a nutrient that like is missing? I just don't get it.
As far as eggs, I think, just the dense calories source.
And fats,
I would say, and then the fats, and then the same with fish. And it's funny, you'll see these people and oh my god, I ate fish and I felt so much better. They're eating a piece of fish that's probably like 400 calories or whatever, when like that's like their whole meal that they've been eating with greens and whatever. And I'm not saying don't eat greens, we gotta eat all our greens and everything, but it shouldn't be the only thing that we're eating. So of course you're gonna feel better from that, some easily digestible calories. Your body's gonna be like, this is amazing, we've been starved for so long.
Some mercury and
exactly. But of course, there's the omega-3s and stuff, and if if you're worried about that, get an algae-based omega-3 fish oil, because that's where the fish are getting it. They're swimming around all day with their mouth open and getting algae in there, and that's how they get it. They don't make it themselves.
Or swim in the ocean with your mouth open.
Just drink a lot of ocean water. That'll do it.
I think we covered most of the things, and I think this is a very, very helpful episode. So, I think we're going to end it there, guys. So thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to check out Derek Simnett's YouTube channel and Instagram. Links will be in the description box below. You can just search Simnett Nutrition on Instagram and YouTube and find it there too. And that's pretty much it, man. Thank you so much for joining, and it's been a pleasure. Hopefully we can do one more before we leave. By the way, we're in LA. I think I haven't even told anyone. We're in LA together for a week. Me, Derek, Brian, and Nimai. So we're getting a lot of stuff done. It's going to be exciting. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you very soon. Peace out.
See ya.